Rain hammered against the cracked windshield as Ethan drove down the empty road, his son asleep in the back seat. The night was a blur of darkness and thunder, but then he saw her. A pale figure lying by the roadside, drenched, broken, and still. He slammed the brakes, heart pounding, not knowing that this one moment would turn his entire life upside down. Ethan jumped out, rushing to the woman. Her face was bloodied, her clothes torn, her body limp. "Hey! Can you hear me?" he shouted over the storm, his voice trembling. She didn't respond, only a faint breath escaped her lips. He scooped her up gently, realizing her legs hung motionless. Paralyzed? His mind raced. He didn't know who she was or what happened to her, but something inside him refused to leave her there to die. He carried her into his old truck, covering her with his jacket. His son, Liam, rubbed his sleepy eyes. "Dad, who is she?" Ethan just shook his head. "I don't know, buddy, but she needs us." That night changed everything. At the small house on the edge of town, Ethan tended to her wounds, his hands shaking. He'd been a single dad for 3 years, ever since his wife, Claire, left him without a word, abandoning both him and their son. Since then, he lived quietly, working construction jobs, surviving paycheck to paycheck, never letting anyone too close. Trust had become a luxury he couldn't afford, but now this stranger, fragile, scarred, and silent, had crashed into his life like a ghost from another world. The doctor said she had no ID, a spinal injury, and severe trauma. "She'll need time," the doctor said. "And care." Ethan volunteered to take her home until they found her family. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the way her eyes, when she finally opened them, carried a kind of pain he recognized too well. The days turned into weeks. Ethan cared for her tirelessly, feeding her, helping her move, talking to her even when she didn't talk back. Liam would sit by her bed, drawing pictures, telling her stories about school. Slowly, the woman began to recover, not her legs, but her spirit. She started whispering words, soft and broken. "Thank you," she said one night, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You saved me." Ethan smiled faintly. "You'd do the same for someone else." But the peace was fragile. A police officer came by, asking questions. They were investigating an assault a woman attacked and left for dead outside the city. No leads, except a locket found near the scene. Ethan didn't think much of it, until he saw the locket himself. The initials engraved on it made his blood run cold. C.M. Claire Morgan, his wife, the woman in his bed, the one he'd rescued, fed, cared for, was the same woman who had left him and their son 3 years ago without explanation. Ethan's knees buckled. He couldn't breathe. Memories rushed in the fights, the note she left, the endless nights he spent wondering why she'd abandoned them. And now, she was back, broken, silent, and didn't even remember who he was. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but she looked at him with such lost eyes that his anger melted into confusion. "You know me," she whispered one evening, catching the tremor in his voice. He hesitated. "Yeah," he said finally. "I do." As her memory slowly returned, fragments came back: a man's voice, a car, the sound of fists, the pain. She remembered being followed, threatened, running. She remembered leaving Ethan, but not why. Until one night, crying in her sleep, she finally said it: "I left, to protect you." Ethan sat beside her, fists clenched. "Protect me? You broke me, Claire." Tears streamed down her face. "He said he'd kill you. The man I tried to expose. My boss, the company was laundering money. I found out, and he threatened you and Liam. I had to disappear. I thought leaving you would keep you safe." Ethan's chest tightened. All these years, he'd hated her, not knowing she was carrying that kind of fear alone. The truth shattered him and healed him all at once. Days passed in silence after that. Then one morning, Claire smiled weakly at him. "You don't have to forgive me," she said. "But thank you, for saving me again." He looked at her, at the woman who once broke him and now lay before him, fragile but alive. "Maybe we both needed saving," he said quietly. Months later, Claire's therapy showed promise. She wasn't walking yet, but she was stronger. Liam would push her wheelchair through the garden, laughing again like the child he once was. Ethan built a small ramp by the porch, one that led toward a future none of them expected but somehow felt right. Life didn't magically heal overnight. There were hard days, guilt, anger, pain. But there was also laughter, forgiveness, and something new slowly blooming, hope. And on one quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, Claire whispered, "Ethan, thank you so much for not giving up on me." He took her hand, squeezing gently. "No, Claire. Thank you for coming back, even if it took the hardest road to find your way home." The story closes not with perfection, but with peace, a reminder that sometimes the people who break us are the same ones who teach us how to heal. And love, real love, isn't about forgetting the pain, it's about finding the courage to hold on, even when it hurts.